Hello, everyone. In this session, we will walk through the Claim Requisition Data template. The focus will be on how you can accurately input your requisition data into the provided template. This template begins with an instruction sheet, and it outlines important guidelines to make sure your data entry is accurate. It is very important that you review this sheet thoroughly before you start working on the template. The instruction sheet includes all the sections you will need to know. The instruction sheet lists and describes all the tabs where you will be entering data, so that's the tab's overview. Then you have the definitions, which provides detailed explanations of each field and the type of data that is required. The prerequisites highlights the key requirements and dependencies that must be fulfilled before you start entering any data. The first one is the template instructions, and this offers guidance on how you can use the template effectively. Then you have the data entry instructions, which explains the correct methods and formats for entering your data in each section. The triggers section identifies all the built-in checks that will help to detect and prevent errors while you are entering data. Please make sure to read each of these sections carefully so you can avoid issues and ensure data integrity. Following these instructions will streamline your process and help you in keeping consistency across all your entries. Now, let's talk about the requisition template and its data entry guidelines. In this template, you will notice that sample data has been provided for your reference. This will help you understand how to correctly populate each of the fields. Below this, we will give you a column-by-column explanation of all the required data. Let's cover the requisition number. You will enter the unique identification number, or the code that is associated with the requisition. Note, if an advance request already has a claim created and the full amount has been allocated, such requisitions will not appear in this template. Only include requisitions that are not yet settled. Now we have the requisition name. You should specify the name or category of the requisition, and some examples are entertainment, travel, gift, medical, or other. Then you have the employee number or staff ID. You will enter the unique employee code or ID that is assigned by the organization to the respective staff member. Let's talk about the employee name. You will provide the full name of the employee who is requesting the requisition. Then you have the requisition start date. You will indicate the start date of the requisition period. This is when the requisition becomes valid. Let's cover the requisition end date. You will enter the end date of the requisition period. This represents the last date that the requisition is valid. The start and end dates together will define the period for which the advance amount is being requested. Then you have the currency of requisition. You should specify the currency in which the requisition amount is being requested. For example, you can use USD, INR, or EUR. Now, for the submission status. This column will capture the current status of the requisition. The acceptable values typically include two options: submitted or approved. Submitted means the requisition has been submitted but not yet approved. Approved means the requisition has been reviewed and has been approved. You must ensure that the status you enter reflects the actual stage of the requisition process at the time you are entering the data. Let's move on to the subrequisition name. This field will capture the specific components or the categories that are within the main requisition. For example, if the main requisition type is travel, the subrequisitions might include things like accommodation, food, transportation, laundry, or public transport. If you have multiple subrequisitions under a single main requisition, you will repeat the main requisition details for each row, and then you will specify the relevant subrequisition in this column. This helps in itemizing and tracking the different expense components that are under a single requisition. Now let's talk about the currency for subrequisition. This column is where you will record the currency in which the subrequisition expense is claimed. It is important that you note that the subrequisition currency might be different from the main requisition currency, especially in some cases that involve international travel or multi-currency operations. Now let's look at an example for more clarity. We will consider a scenario where a single travel requisition includes multiple sub-requisitions. For this example, we will use laundry or overseas accommodation. In the sub-requisition name column, each of these items, for example laundry or accommodation, should be entered as separate rows. They should all be under the same requisition number and the same requisition name, which is travel. In the currency for sub-requisition column, you can specify different currencies for each sub-requisition. This will depend on the country or the payment requirement. For example, laundry might be in INR and accommodation in EUR. This setup allows the system to generate payments in multiple currencies under a single main requisition. Now, let's look at the sub-requisition line amount. This field represents the estimated amount for the individual sub-requisition in the currency that you specified. You should enter the amount that is going to be paid before any currency conversion. Now for the sub-requisition line amount, and we are talking about the base currency here. This field reflects the converted amount of the sub-requisition in your organization's base currency. For instance, if the sub-requisition amount is in euros and the base currency is Indian rupees, this column should show the value after it is converted to INR based on the applicable exchange rate. You need to make sure you use the correct and updated conversion rate while you are calculating the base currency value. Let's cover the advance checkbox. This indicates whether an advance payment is required for the requisition. You will enter Y for yes if an advance is needed. You will enter N for no if the requisition is just for information and no advance is required. Let's cover the advance mode. This is only required if you have marked the advance checkbox as Y. This specifies the mode in which the advance amount is being requested. Some options are a bank transfer or cash. Let's cover the advance amount. This field will capture the amount that is being requested in advance, which is taken from the estimated requisition amount. You should enter it in the same currency as you specified for the sub-requisition. Then you have the advance amount in the base currency. This reflects the advance amount after it is converted to the organization's base currency. For example, if the advance amount is in euros and your base currency is Indian rupees, this field should show the equivalent Indian rupees amount after you apply the conversion rate. Now, we will look at some of the travel-specific fields, starting with destination from. This field is mandatory for all travel requisitions. You will enter the starting location of the employee's travel. Let's cover the destination to. This field is also mandatory for all travel requisitions. You will enter the destination location for the travel. Both the destination from and the destination to fields are required to clearly define the travel route. Now we will move to the general information fields. Let's cover the description field. You should use this field to add any relevant notes or any additional context that is related to the requisition or sub-requisition. Then you have the person name. This is mandatory for all gift requisitions. You will enter the name of the individual to whom the gift is being given, and that could be an employee or a client. This ensures that there is traceability and proper documentation for all gifts that are provided on behalf of the organization. Now we will move to the final fields, which are the payment or cash details. Let's cover the cash book name. This is only required for cash payments. You will specify the name of the cash book from which the payment is or will be settled. This helps in making sure there is accurate cash flow tracking and reconciliation. Let's cover the payment field. If a payment has been generated against the requisition, but the requisition is still unsettled, which means the claim has not been submitted or approved yet, you will enter the payment reference number in this field. This allows you to link the requisition to the associated transaction for auditing and for tracking purposes. Let's cover the cash journal line. This is applicable when the payment mode is cash. If the payment has already been made, you will enter the relevant cash journal line reference to tie the entry to the correct cash transaction record. Now that you have completed the requisition template, the next step is to populate the payment template. This template will capture the details of payments that have been made against approved requisitions. Below is a breakdown of each field that you will be entering. The first one is the organization. You will enter the name of the organization that is processing the payment. For example, you can use Onfinity. Next, we have the requisition number. You will specify the unique requisition code for which the payment is being made. This will link the payment back to the corresponding requisition that was submitted by the employee. Let's cover the payment document number. If the payment has already been initiated or completed, you will enter the corresponding payment reference number. This serves as a traceable identifier for the financial transaction. Let's cover the document type. You will indicate the type of document that is related to the payment. Some examples are a payment voucher, a bank transfer, a check, or a cash payment slip. Then we have the bank name. This provides the name of the bank from which the payment is being made. Let's cover the bank account number. You will enter the account number from which the funds were dispersed. Then you have the transaction date. This is the actual date that the payment transaction was executed. Let's cover the account date. This is the accounting date that the payment was recorded in the system or the ledger. Then you have the A's on date. This is the cutoff date that you will use for financial reporting or for reconciliation purposes. Let's cover the description field. You will add any relevant description or any remarks about the payment, for example, the payment purpose or notes for reference. Then we have the business partner. You will enter the unique ID or code of the employee or the external party that is receiving the payment. That external party could be a vendor or a consultant, or even more. Let's cover the currency code. You will specify the currency in which the payment was made. For example, you can use USD, INR, or EUR. You should use the standard 3-letter ISO currency codes. Then you have the currency rate type. If this is applicable, you will mention the type of exchange rate that was used for the currency conversion. Some common rate types are average, company, period end, or spot rate. Let's cover the currency conversion rate. You will enter the conversion rate that you used to convert the payment amount from the original currency to the organization's base currency. This is a very important step for all cross-currency transactions, so you can make sure that your financial reporting is accurate. Let's cover the payment amount, and this is in your local currency. This field will capture the converted amount in the base currency, and an example of that could be INR. This is based on the specified currency conversion rate. For example, if the original requisition was in EUR, this field should reflect the equivalent amount in INR. Now we will cover the payment amount, and this is in the documented currency. You will enter the payment amount in the original transaction currency, if that is different from your base currency. This is very useful for tracking payments that involve multiple currencies and for reconciliation. Let's cover the payment method. You will specify the method of payment that was used. Some options are an online transfer, a check, or cash. Then we have the check date. If the payment was made using a check, you will enter the date on which the check was issued. Let's cover the check number. You will enter the check number that was used for the transaction. Now, we will look at the status checkboxes, starting with Is Prepayment. You will mark Yes if the payment has been made in advance, which is before the actual claim is submitted. Let's cover the Is Reconciled field. You will mark Yes if the payment has already been reconciled in the accounting system. Then you have Is Allocated. You will mark Yes if the requisition has already been allocated against a claim or a settlement. Let's cover the ledger code. You will enter the appropriate ledger code for the transaction to make sure there is proper financial categorization in the organization's accounting system. This concludes our session on how to correctly fill out the claim requisition and the payment templates. Thank you for attending.